It's a privilege and an honor for me this morning to address this August occasion. And my greetings to the senior management of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, um, senior managers and members of the National Prosecuting Authority, judicial officers here present, officials of the department, and colleagues and friends. There are four things, in my view, that determines and help define an organization, especially in relation to the successes of its outcomes. And these four things, in my view, are: one, the skills within the organization; number two, the attitudes the concept of maintenance recovery in the Republic of South Africa. In my view, our problem lies in the structure. And we have to be honest about it and discuss it. Advocate Kusami, I am not ashamed to declare and label myself as a beneficiary of the affirmative action policy of the government of the day. And especially its implementation by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. Because I stand here talking to you, having gone through the process of maturing, and I know what I'm talking about. Because when I joined the Department of Justice way back in 19 Khaleta, I joined the department as a court interpreter. And amongst others, I interpreted in maintenance courts. So I know what happened in the maintenance courts during apartheid, when we still applied the 1963 Act. I don't hear about it, I've seen how it was implemented. I then grew to become a public prosecutor. And amongst others, I applied and lived the Maintenance Act and its regulations. Read with, remember, read with the Magistrates Act and the rules, amongst other applicable legislation. And then I became a magistrate. And then I became a judicial educator. Most of you who are here, I have trained in one way or another in maintenance recovery, either as clerks of the courts, maintenance officers, or judicial officers. And I now have the benefit of sitting in covering and developing the jurisprudence that is suitable for a democratic and constitutional dispensation. And colleagues and friends, we dare not forget our generational mandate. We dare not forget. Our uncles, fathers, mothers, and aunts died on either side of the struggle. But they died in advancing those who were on the right side of history, in advancing a democratic and constitutional dispensation. They were worried about what is going to happen to their children and their grandchildren when they one day become a heap of soil and suddenly God goes there and nobody remembers that they were ever there. But what is going to happen to their children and grandchildren? It is our responsibility now as the founding constructors of the legal framework for maintenance recovery. So there's no room for egos. And that is why if you are too sensitive, you don't invite Daniel to speak. Because I speak unedited. So let's go through the problems that, in my view, needs our attention. Not yesterday, but today. When a complainant walks into a service point, which is the magistrate's court, and lodges a complaint, from that point on, it is necessary that we have the required skills and resources. One of the things that I doubt, Mr. Skosana, till today, is whether in fact the act was costed before it was implemented. In other words, whether in fact the decision makers sat and looked at the act and looked at what it required for its implementation and prepared a budget for it. It may be that they did so and the budget seemed insufficient. But I have to repeat, I doubt if it was costly. Because those of us who apply the act struggle with the failure of those who were responsible to properly, adequately make a costing of the act. That is why you hear legal managers in provinces complaining about resources. To say, we don't have maintenance officers, we don't have. And that is part of the problem, the costing. Fatima is about. Fatima is about. So what we expect when a complainant walks into a maintenance school. We expect a functionally literate clerk of the court, well trained, understanding the maintenance regulations, understanding what type of information must be sourced from the complainant, and if there is a need for documentary evidence and other things that be sourced. And I'll give you an example of what happened in a court that, the last court that I was privileged to be a judicial manager at, which is the Magistrates Court in Cape Town. Because on site, we attended to the training of the class. We could, on the first day, have a complainant walking out with a court order. Do you believe me? Those who have been in Cape Town knows that. And why was that possible? It's because you have a clerk who knows what information to source. It boils down to two things: the extent of the need and the means, if any, of the complainant, and where possible, and the complainant knows the means of the respondent. Because unless the child was a product of a one-night stand, the complainant generally has an idea of the income of the respondent. If it was a one-night stand, hit and run, she wouldn't know. She wouldn't know. But if the child was born out of a relationship, intimate in its true sense, including financial intimacy, she would know. All right? And therefore, the clerk is able to compile that information. And once that happens, we also have a court manager who has been set down and explained what is your role. Provide resources. The telephone line at the magistrate's court must work. And why is this important? Because on that very same day, after all the information has been sourced and the complaint has been registered, the clerk of the court has been trained on site to make a call immediately to the respondent to say, hey, Brajo, we have house Diana here, and she's saying you are a father of two children and you're not assisting in the maintenance of the children. And she's claiming 2,000 rands a month per child. What is your attitude? And you can picture Brajo scratching his head and say, hey, 2,000 now, you got only 1,200 nice. And that's a counter offer legally. All right? And that is discussed with the complaint. On the first day, to say, Brajo doesn't have 2,000 rands per month, but he offers 1,200 rands per month per child. The complainant says, okay, but yeah, it's okay. All right, I accept it. The file then, what then happens is that there is then a discussion between the clerk and Brajo. Do you have a fax number? Do you have somewhere where you can get a consent form transmitted to you? Brajo provides his email address. A consent form is prepared by the clerk of the court. It is transmitted to Brajo. Brajo signs it, it comes back. The clerk of the court assists the complainant in documenting, recording the consent or the acceptance of 1,200. The file is taken to a maintenance officer. The maintenance officer considers whether this is appropriate and fair. If it is, it's taken to the magistrate. When the complainant walks out of that courtroom on the first day, there is a court order. We don't create disputes and long processes where there are none. It is only when Rajo says, hey, I'm not sure whether that's my child. And oh, yes, no, he raises issues, confusing issues of contact and care with maintenance and being in his own woods, where then the matter is referred to the maintenance officer for ordinary process. But in the majority of cases, and I have to say, at least out of 10 complaints, 6 were able to have orders by consent from the first day. It is possible. And that's why I'm talking to questions of skills and attitudes, as well as resources. Because for as long as the court manager still complains, Advocate Skosana, I was the head of court, you would know. I led the department's project in taking justice in the true sense to the people, establishing fully functional courts in townships of Gauteng. Remember, before then, township courts only dealt with criminal matters. I am the man who recruited, trained, and made sure that courts in the townships, you name them, Soweto, Davidson, Mamelodi, just as an example, to make them fully fledged courts. All right? So I understand the challenges. It can be that when I was in Davidson in 2009, there were problems of the PABX machine. And that in 2023, the problem is still there. Who's managing? So it suggests that we have court managers in office. But in reality, no. If you are sitting here as a court manager, and for the past 6-10 years, you're still saying, I'm waiting for national office because the PBX machine is not working and the telephone line is not working at your court. You are the problem, please resign. A constitutional and democratic dispensation of a man and a woman who understands their generational mandate, who says children in the court which I service cannot struggle without me making my contribution as a ding hamba. I knew some caps would die down as well. Now, there's also the question of identity crisis, Mr. Ramatikit, of court managers. And I have to say, this identity crisis is caused by senior managers, some senior managers in the DOJ. Let's be frank and candid. A court manager is an accounting officer. It's a representative and extension of the Director General at office level. That is why, in our recruitment of court managers, we don't need legal qualifications. We need training and skill in public administration because you are going to be applying and overseeing how public money is being used, the PFMA, the public service regulations and all those things. That's your training. You know you're not a lawyer. Ufunani endaweni engafuni. Stay in your lane. You're not legally trained. You know nothing about jurisprudence. You don't know anything about substantive law, the difference between a civil application and an ordinary application for bail. You don't. You're not trained in this. So there's some thinking. I don't know where it comes from. That suddenly because you're an accounting officer, somehow you hold the monopoly of wisdom. So much so that a lawyer must report to you on legally trained matters. Why? When it comes to legal matters, sit down, shut up, and these are problems, these are challenges why ultimately we have recycling matters. Alright? Because a legally sound decision is made by a legally trained maintenance officer. Alright? And then someone comes with an accounting gut feeling. Are you with me? A legally sound decision is replaced by an accounting gut feeling. And you think it will stand in a court of law. And that is why you have orders that are not orders. They are paper tigers. When challenged, they collapse. A complainant has to start afresh with an order that was the product of an accounting gut scheme. I must see it. Know your lane. Awufundanga. Hlala phansi. Ufundiswe. Stay in your lane. You are an accounting officer. Alright? Of course, maintenance officers are not loose cannons. Yeah, no, you don't just fire. They are reporting lines. And perhaps, I don't know, Advocate Skosana, perhaps there is a case in terms of accounting as to why administratively, they have to apply for leave or they are not there. Arrangements must be made that somehow the administration should know. But when it comes to jurisprudential output, when it comes to what the law says and what the law must say on the facts, Shalapan's court manager. Shalapan's. That's the province for those who are legally clean. And we must do these things if we are to improve our maintenance recovery. You must know the colors of your team. About talking, when you have to wear red. Mali moves of thought. So that identity crisis is something that our leaders must attend to. And I'll talk to it later as well. But court managers must see to it that the PABX machine is working with phones, the necessary support structure, because that's what they are doing. Resource provisioning. All right? Stay out of the contents of court files. Stay. Ungayibheka ngaphandle ungahobi ngaphakathi. What's next? Now, where do maintenance officers jurisprudentially report? The current framework of the Act is the National Prosecuting Authority. If you read the Act, I think it's around Section 4, Section 4, you will see that, amongst others, the training and policy formulations related to maintenance officers. And although that section makes provision for two types of maintenance officers, NPA officials and those appointed by the minister, right? But when it comes to their training and policy formulation, there is no distinction. All of them NDPP. If DOJ senior managers want to change that, we were parliament, right? Let the MP change. But for as long as it stands as it is, in terms of the output of maintenance officers, they are the responsibility of the National Prosecuting Authority. On the contents of the file, that's what you can do. But the truth is, we have a very hostile NPA. Let's tell the truth. I said to you, you don't call Daniel Tulari if you don't want to hear the truth. All right. The truth is, we have a very hostile NPA. And the problem does not lie only with officials on the ground. The problem also lies in the mindset of leaders. Advocate Skosana and I were already in the department in the maintenance framework when a national director of public prosecutions wrote a circular withdrawing public prosecutors from maintenance letters. And that's what I'm saying. The problem is not only with your prosecutor at office level. There are problems at the top. And that is why I'm saying the structure is the problem. The skills, the attitudes, and the systems we can work on. But we also need to attend to the structure. Because currently, the structure is the main problem. The reporting lines, who does what? The department is eager to take the responsibility of leading maintenance recovery. But by law, it is the function of the NPA. The NPA is running away. Abambe. NPA yekubale kuhlala phansi. Hlala phansi ubambe umthetho. Maintenance Act of 1998. It's your responsibility in terms of the training and the output of maintenance officers. So we have to start there. I'm not aware, and Advocate Smith MP would correct me, but I'm not aware that that circular, and remember we are talking about a circular that was issued by Great Muka. I'm not aware that that circular has been withdrawn. Are you with me? And that is why some of us at the time that I was still a judicial manager, when we called chief prosecutors to say, all right, over your responsibility, she came to the meeting with the circular. Are you with me? So these are things we need to address. What is the thinking within the National Prosecuting Authority? Because the problem is, if the problem sits at the top, we are not going to address it without the assistance of the NDPP or the DPP to make sure that the public prosecutor in Oregstad or in Priska actually takes the responsibility of guiding maintenance recovery in that district. So there must be a paradigm shift. You know, I grew up during those times when in a rural village, you know that your chin and your tongue can actually tell you the level of electricity. Load shedding, I tell you, man. Yeah. Load shedding doesn't start now. All right? Because there was a PM9 or a PM10. Those of my age you remember. Yeah. All right, we would put it in the sun during the day. Then solar. As starting on my solar panels go. We are not starting about solar now. We put it in the sun during the day so that in the evening you could listen to the news at least and reports on burials and the story. So you had to put one part of it on your chin and the other part on your tongue so that it charges. NPA, we are charging. Are you charging NPA? NPA is flat. National Prosecuting Authority is flat. It needs solar power. Come to the party. Come to the party, children of South Africa needs you. If we are to have a fully functional maintenance recovery system, the NPA must get the solar power. We can't rely on Eskom. We need solar. Now, having taken the issue of the mindset of the NPA, we now have lawyers that are assigned to regions as well as national office, including in the NPA, who specifically focus on maintenance. All right? I've got a request for you, and that is speak to your senior managers and have time to sit down and talk and have a frank and candid discussion. You see, I have a different view. In my view, these lawyers, especially those who are within the department, should not actually be imbued with operational matters. It is well and good that they receive these complaints and whatever. But in my view, it would serve the country better if, after learning of these challenges and complaints, they actually advised the office that my brother Advocate Skosana normally led, policy formulation, and advise the DG on the policy direction that the department should take, on the posture that the department must take, on each and every challenge as they study them. But it seems to me that their focus is more into getting into the files and giving direction. And that is why it seems to me the space of policy formulation at national office around maintenance is weakened. Because it seems to me those who should actually be engaging with it and seem to say, but if maintenance officers are struggling on this point, or if members of the public are struggling on this point, this is what the intervention that must be brought, either by way of training and or by way of change of legislation to make systems easier. All right. So in my view, they would serve the department and children of the republic better if that was their role. But it doesn't seem to me that they are actually contributing much in terms of policy formulation. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that they are more geared on, hey, maintenance officer, why was this not served on that day? I mean, there are persons within the system that should attend to those matters. All right. And if the problem is the absence of those matters, It's not for them to directly intervene there, except to say, hey, good, stand up, it's your duty. All right? But they should be more geared towards assisting in policy formulation. And why that meeting would help, if they are on tune, is that they will advise us on the dual parallel system that we now have. Because you see, sometimes I feel pity structurally for maintenance officers. Because on the one hand, the law says the NPA, you know what the law says. All right? You have a public administrator, a court manager who knows nothing about the law, who says something else. And then you have national office officials who say something else, and sometimes their directives are conflicting. What do you do? And this multiplicity of centers of power is as a result of a non-streamlined structure. We need to know who's the boss. Vi Kraikwene. Okay, man. Okay, now, Morena, we must know which is the bull. Because there can only one bull if you want to procreate and breed correctly. There should be only one bull, not many. They confuse the breeding. Is that I'm now bok for bull bok. Once we have milk, but if you have one male, we will know it's a bull bok. So currently we have male bok and bull bok, and then I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, you are not bull bok or male bok. All that I'm saying is we must know SE and bull bok or female bok. Are you a Bonsmara or a Boran or a Brahman? And we can only know by the bull. So this structural thing is what needs attention. And in my view, I'm not saying there are no other problems, but it is at the center of the problem, because once there is no single voice of command and people knowing where we are going, everybody will chart their own path as it is happening now. All right. So this area, in terms of policy formulation, needs some attention. As I said, my view is that if we have people who are legally trained like we have, who are specialists in maintenance within the department and within the NPA, we must use that resource for them to sit down and advise to say which way, Burboke of Melboke. Are we going for meat or for milk production? It must be very clear. We must know where we are going. All right. Now, on operational level and on jurisprudence, remember a maintenance complaint in terms of our law is treated as a civil application. It is motion. And sometimes I wonder about maintenance officers, have they forgotten their law? Because when you walk into a lecture where you are taught civil procedure and especially motion, all professors make that. In motion proceedings, you rise and fall by your papers. Is that not so? In motion proceedings, you rise and fall by your papers. The Maintenance Act makes provision. I think it's J101, the founding affidavit of the applicant. In the regulations, there is also provision for an answering affidavit form. Are you with me? But if you check court files, I can take any one of you who volunteers that we go to their files today. Maintenance officers, I want to check who says in my files, Judge Tulare, you will find the respondent's case set out in the papers. Paramisi Sandra support. There's only one hand. And that's where the problem lies. It's a motion proceeding, which means before you take that matter to court as a maintenance officer, you must have the complainant's case and you must have the respondent's case. But what are you doing? Jurisprudentially, you're transmitting a constitutionally guaranteed right for criminal proceedings, the right to remain silent, and you're transmitting it into a civil application, and the respondent is silent, and then you claim you're ready. And that's why some of you, those who appeared before me, you walked out of the court not on speaking terms with me on that day. It took you a month to realize that Tulare was not fighting me, but was teaching me. You know, I've got that funny way of telling you to go to hell in such a way that you look forward to the trip. But that's the jurisprudential challenge. For as long as maintenance officers do not remember their first year of motion law training, that these are motion proceedings and that the respondent does not have the right to remain silent, the Maintenance Act translates it and it's very specific. He has got a duty to speak on his or her finances. I see written song. The respondent has a duty to speak on their finances. Means Williams, there is no common law or common right to silence. That right, if you look at Section 35 of the Constitution, is for criminal proceedings. If you look at the common law, is in criminal proceedings because we have the rule of non-incrimination. In maintenance, you are not incriminating yourself. You are paying to contribute to the welfare of your procreation. And that is why, after there are reasons. Is expensive. It has got financial consequences. And that's one of the financial consequences. Yes. Lawyers can grasp to attend to. But coming back to the discussion that I said, I think officials in the department who are imbued with maintenance, and specifically those who are legally trained, as well as those in the NPA, must have a discussion. Is that DG? Welcome and good morning. I have a view, DG, that the time is now in addressing our maintenance recovery structure, where we must have a frank and candid discussion. All right? Do we have, as the department, stamina to run after the National Prosecuting Authority and grab them and have them sit down and attend to their obligations in maintenance recovery? If we have that stamina, and we believe that catching the NPA and reminding them of their legislative responsibility will help, then perhaps the DG must release maintenance recovery to the NPA. That is a discussion we must have. If DG, we believe that the mindset of the NPA is so poisoned, because since 1998, we are struggling to have them acknowledge their responsibility of training and policy formulation and taking responsibility for our children. If we find that they are failing and they've reached a point of no return, there are two options there. Are we looking at strengthening the department in making sure that it has the capacity to respond to child and maintenance recovery? Or perhaps has the time come in the Republic that we consider what I would call the CSMRA, Child Support and Maintenance Recovery Agency, an independent body, just like you have with the SASA agency within social development, all right? An independent body, which will still be, because of the nature of our constitutional framework, interdependent on the department and the NPA to attend to issues of maintenance recovery. I'm saying interdependent because where there are failures and criminal acts committed, the NPA will still play a role in maintenance recovery. And I'm saying interdependent to the DOJ because the Minister of Justice will always have maintenance the respondent. And he took her through the expenses of the last 6 months. And what it revealed was that actually it was the complainant who was responsible for the budget of the house, including the grocery items, and that they had been bought. And when Mr. Morotolo put to her to say that there is no reason for us to be here, her response was, "Ke be ke sa bolele ka tlala e nngwe." I wasn't talking about that hunger. She was talking about conjugal rights that the club did not listen. And the maintenance officer never understood. Because when the poor woman walked in, officials knew a problem. They did not listen to what she had come to complain about. So you can think of yourself the embarrassment. I will never forget the face of, it was a public prosecutor who was dealing with the matter. Right? I will never forget the face of the poor public prosecutor and her body language when the complainant said, "Ah, ke bolele ka tlala e nngwe." I'm not talking about that hunger. So attitude is something that we really need to attend to. As officers within the system, we mustn't pretend that we have some prophetic tendencies of knowing what the people's problems are. Let's listen so that our response can be true to the problem. Now, in conclusion, I think in fairness, DG, as part of the interventions, we have to look at the value that we place on our maintenance officers because they are central to maintenance recovery. In terms of how we remunerate them, as well as their career path. Because my experience on the ground when I was a judicial manager at DG was that we would invest in training, right? And once they know what to do, they leave. So we have a retention period of around 2 years. Once they know what's happening and what they do, they leave. And that's because if you look at the like a drawer, it's open, you put in there, it's closed. We open it when you retire, or when you resign, or when you die. That's when we open it and put another and close it. It cannot be. If we want a return on our investment, we have to make sure that the career path is there. There are different careers within the department, I have to say that. All right, that people can follow. But let's not lose the best that can help the system simply because we don't appreciate them enough. Here magwala chiche, a chiche de murao, oyeru naba pilutikana. Here magwala chiche, a chiche de murao, oyeru naba pilutikana, oyeru naba.
It looks like we planned this thing together. Thank you very much, Judge Tulare. He has two ranks. Kwamshate, Village Judge. Those that do not know.